Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. I am Professor Jill Castle, the Marshal of the George Washington University, and on behalf of my colleagues who are here with me today and my colleagues across the university, I am delighted to welcome the members of the class of 2014 to their Freshman Convocation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Steven Knapp, the President of the University, Dr. Steven Lerman, the Provost of the University, Helen Canaday-Saulney, the Dean of Freshmen, Hunter Thomas, a member of the class of 2013 and our student speaker, the deans of the schools and members of the faculty. Would the audience please rise? Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin the roll call of freshman houses. As each one is announced, please join me in welcoming the flag bearer from your house. Would the banner bearer from Politics and Public Policy at Thurston please come forward? Would the banner bearer from the School of Engineering and Applied Science at Thurston please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Honors at Thurston please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Politics and Values at Thurston please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Business and Entrepreneurship at Crawford please come forward? Would the banner bearer from CSI Mount Vernon please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Creative Performing Arts Community at West Hall at Mount Vernon, please come forward. Would the banner bearer from Green Earth at West Hall at Mount Vernon please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Civic House at West Hall at Mount Vernon please come forward? Would the banner bearer from the Women's Leadership Program at Summers at Mount Vernon please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Media and Public Affairs at Mount Vernon please come forward? Would the banner bearer from Humanities and Sports Studies? Would the banner bearer from Global Perspectives and Diplomacy at Potomac? Would the banner bearer from Culture and Arts at Thurston? Ladies and gentlemen, your freshman houses. Ladies and gentlemen, Millicent Scarlett, a professor in the Department of Music, will lead us in the singing of the national anthem. Thereafter, Ms. Scarlett will perform the university's alma mater. Ladies and gentlemen, Millicent Scarlett.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, the Dean of Freshmen, Helen Canaday Saulney.
Thank you, Professor Castle. Good afternoon. I am delighted to be able to stand here with my colleagues, members of our esteemed faculty, and all of you, the class of 2014, and welcome you to the George Washington University. This convocation is the official start to your academic career, and I hope that the excitement you feel this weekend extends throughout your entire GW experience. This convocation is one of a pair of bookends that mark your time here at GW. Today, we have the privilege of welcoming you as duly certified citizens in the community of scholars. Then, in a bit less than 4 years, you will get to experience the other bookend, your graduation. What you have started here today will end when you throw your caps into the air at the conclusion of your commencement ceremony and join the ranks of the more than 225,000 distinguished GW alumni worldwide. You may remember at CI that I spoke to you about 3 main topics that I wanted you to keep in mind during your freshman year, as well as the remainder of your time here at GW. Those topics were getting involved, staying engaged, and managing your time. And they are very much worth repeating today. As you know so well, GW is a wonderfully unique place filled with endless opportunities and experiences awaiting you. Professors are excited about their disciplines, and they look to engage you in and outside of their classrooms. The GPS guides are eager to get to know you and help you learn your way around campus. Student activities and student organizations beckon you to join. There are countless lectures, intramurals, dance concerts, theater performances, civic engagement tasks, public service activities, and the list goes on, waiting for you to engage them and participate. One of these activities, as you very well know, is the 2nd annual Freshman Day of Service, to be held on Saturday, September 11th. This event illustrates our school's commitment to service and the value it holds in our community. And I'm so pleased to know that so many of you have already signed up for this event. In addition to engaging with the university, I invite you to utilize the city that stands all around us. The pieces of art, models of government, and portions of history that surround you. They will provide a beautiful backdrop to your time here with us. With all of this at your fingertips, your classes, the city, the campus, now comes the challenging part, managing your time successfully. I told you at CI that the 24 hours times 7 days is 168 hours, and the time has now come for you to think seriously about how you're going to use these 100 hours. I want to remind you that these hours, when used properly, can effectively produce results that will exceed your own expectations. Take the time you have here at GW and enjoy it, really enjoy it. But make sure you can look back in 4 years and take great pride in the success you have achieved throughout your time here. So get involved, stay engaged, and manage your time well. Even though you have yet to attend your first GW class, you have already been given a homework assignment, reading Half the Sky, and writing an essay on your reactions to the book as part of your first chapter here at GW. I received so many insightful essays and thought-provoking responses in response to my invitation that I knew our admissions office had done their job well. Now that I have read your many essays and reactions, I'm ready to announce the winners of our competition. And believe me when I say this, it was almost impossible to narrow the field to these 23 students, and I congratulate everyone who shared their reactions with me. It was a true pleasure to read them. So in no particular order, here are the winners, and I'm going to ask you to please stand when your name is called, but audience, if you wouldn't mind holding your response until the last name is announced. Ethan Bersofsky, Amanda Dudley, Christy Espiritu, Alan Farrahan, Mary Elizabeth Hall. Are we being shy? Okay. Rio Hart, Samantha Herman, Richard Hinman, Jacob Itzkowitz, Amber Johnson, Ben Kimmel, Marshall Kosloff, Khadijah Lalani, Madeline Livingston, Monica Mete, Prayaska Mokhtar, Catherine McKittrick, Asat Mustafa, Rika Prasad, Kristen Saldarini, Poonan Sharma, Richard Thurston, and Tegan Wilson. Congratulations to all of our winners. Again, congratulations. We will be in touch with you over the next few weeks to announce the date for our dinner, which we expect to be held in the middle of the academic year. Now, finally, I want to remind you of my hopes for you. I hope that you will use my office as a resource to enhance your success. I hope that you will bring your questions and your concerns to my office, and I also hope that you will bring your joys as well. I hope that you will find your time at GW to be even more rewarding than you could have ever possibly imagined. And I hope my inaugural year in this office and your first year on campus are both a resounding success. I am honored to be joining you in this journey. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege and great pleasure to introduce the president of the George Washington University, Dr. Steven Knapp.
Thank you, Dean Kennedy. Class of 2014, welcome. You know, 2 months ago, I had the honor of speaking on a panel in New York City at the National Conference on Volunteering and Service. The title of the panel was All Volunteer Force, Enlisting Our Newest Generation of Volunteers. And my particular focus was on the role that returning veterans can play in enriching the experience of their fellow students on our university and college campuses. Many of you will be able to see what I was talking about firsthand a couple of weeks from now when our student veterans lead some of the activities in our freshman day of service about which Dean Kennedy was just telling you. The main reason I mention that panel this afternoon is that 2 of my fellow panelists happen to be George Washington University alumni, which means that 3 of the 5 panelists, counting me, had some kind of deep connection with GW. One of the alumni was the Honorable Mark Warner, the junior U.S. Senator from the Commonwealth of Virginia. The other was the Honorable L. Tammy Duckworth, Assistant Secretary for Public and Intergovernmental Affairs at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Mark Warner was elected to the Senate in 2008. He was born in Indiana, grew up in Connecticut, graduated from George Washington in 1977, and from here he went on to Harvard Law School. But instead of going into law, but after he graduated from Harvard, in the 1980s he co-founded the cellular phone company that I think some of you may have heard of, Nextel. It was actually a very prominent cellular phone company a while back. In 2001, he was elected governor of Virginia, and his 4 years in that role were credited with making Virginia one of the best-run and most business-friendly states in the nation. Before becoming governor, he established the Virginia Healthcare Foundation, which responded to the needs of more than 500,000 underserved Virginians. He served 8 years on the university's Board of Trustees, received an honorary doctorate from GW in 2003, and to this day, he's a frequent spectator at Colonial's basketball games. You'll see him at a game sometime during your time here. But what I really want to tell you about Mark Warner is a story you may hear him tell someday when he comes to campus. I just ask that you don't tell him that I stole it because it's one of his best stories. Well, it turns out that when Mark Warner was a student here, he was working as an intern on Capitol Hill, and he used to take his bicycle all the way from here up the long climb from Foggy Bottom to Capitol Hill. And he did this in some of the kind of weather that we're experiencing today, you know, typical Washington weather in the early fall and in the late spring when it was pretty hot. But he had the advantage of doing this in the 1970s, and while I know that none of you remember this, there was an interesting sort of fashion trend in the 1970s in which men of his generation wore plaid polyester suits. And the way he tells this story, this was a great thing because when he arrived, he could go into the men's room, take off his suit, wring out the perspiration, flip it like that, and then put it on and go through the rest of the workday. And at the end of the day, he would go to the congressional receptions. By the way, this is a tip for those of you who do end up on internships on Capitol Hill. He'd go to the reception, which always have great hors d'oeuvres, many of which don't get consumed by the congressional representatives and their staff, and he would stuff the pockets of the same polyester suit with the rolls and shrimp, particularly with shrimp and cocktail sauce, and he would get back on his bike, ride down the hill, and bring home all those hors d'oeuvres to his roommates, thereby learning early on the lesson of a politician that you really have to bring things home to your constituents. And he was doing that from early in his career. Well, he went on from those days here. That's where he was bitten by the political bug. He became a governor, and he became the junior senator from our great neighboring state of Virginia. Tammy Duckworth was born in Thailand to an American father and a Thai mother of Chinese ancestry. She graduated from the University of Hawaii in 1989. She came to GW for a Master's in International Affairs, which she received in 1992. And while at George Washington, she joined ROTC and became a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army Reserves. In 2004, the Black Hawk helicopter she was co-piloting in Iraq was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade. She is credited with saving the lives of her crew by continuing to fly until she passed out from loss of blood. And as a result of her injuries, she lost the lower parts of both legs and partial use of her right arm. She was heavily decorated for that episode in Iraq. Well, last October, I had the honor of presenting Tammy Duckworth with the first ever Colin Powell Public Service Award, not just because she's a wounded veteran and a highly decorated one, but because she is a tireless and extraordinarily eloquent advocate for veterans, as I discovered once again when she spoke so powerfully on our panel together in New York. Now, I'm telling you these stories about Mark Warner and Tammy Duckworth for two reasons. First, I want to give you a sense of the personal qualities of the kinds of students this university attracts. You will learn a lot about your own personal character and qualities as your experience here unfolds and as you go on from here to the next stage of your lives. Second, I wanted to tell you this story because it has to do with the deep tradition and culture of public service and service to the community that has been a hallmark of this university ever since it was first conceived by its namesake. As I think some of you have heard me say in the past, I touched on this a little bit in the Colonial inauguration presentation, when George Washington spelled out his vision for creating a university in the nation's capital and left this vision very explicitly stated in his last will and testament when he died in 1799, he made it clear that he wanted to create a university that would bring together citizens from all the former colonies that had now become the new United States so they could learn together, live together, study together, form lasting friendships, and together become the new citizen leaders of this brand new democracy. And today, and again, you've probably heard me say this before, we continue to embody that vision And Tammy Duckworth and Mark Warner are ample evidence of the vitality of that tradition continuing right down to this today. But we do so with the difference that we're educating citizen leaders, not just of the United States, but of all 50, not just of the original colonies, but of all 50 states, and moreover, citizen leaders of the world. We currently have students representing not only 50 states, but more than 130 nations around the world. And that's why it was so appropriate when she came to give the commencement speech on the National Mall last May that First Lady Michelle Obama urged our graduates in the class of 2010, your immediate predecessors, not only to remember their commitment to service, but to take that commitment global. I'm just asking you to keep being you, she said, to keep doing what you're doing, just take it global. I thought of that exhortation when just a few days after commencement, I went with a delegation of our law school to the capital of the Netherlands, The Hague, to participate in a symposium celebrating the career of a member of our law school faculty, Tom Bergenthal, who spent the last 10 years on the International Court of Justice. Judge Bergenthal is a world-renowned authority on human rights and is credited with having rape acknowledged as a crime against humanity. He's returning to GW this fall as the Lobinger Professor of Comparative Law and Jurisprudence. I thought of Mrs. Obama's exhortation again when, a week after that, I gave the commencement address at our partner institution in Morocco, Al Akhawain University. We truly are a global university with 225,000 alumni around the world, and I hope that many of you will take the opportunity of your undergraduate years to study abroad, or if not, then to look for at least a few courses that will broaden your perspective beyond your home country. But whether here or abroad, whether in the field of public service or public policy, or in science, engineering, business, the arts, the humanities, you are entering an exciting, transformative, and defining period of your lives. It's a time when it will be up to you to discover how you can make a contribution that will be your personal version of the contribution made by a Mark Warner or a Tammy Duckworth, or for that matter, a George Washington. All of us here on stage and in the rows in front of the stage, the deans, vice presidents, and above all, the George Washington University faculty, are here to help you make that discovery, the discovery of who you will be and what contribution you will make. And you have arrived at an ideal time to make that discovery. You, the class of 2014, are the most academically qualified we have ever recruited. You really are. You arrive at, and you powerfully symbolize, a time when this university is moving boldly to achieve and solidify the world-class stature that befits the largest university in this great international city. You arrive, in fact, in a year that begins a decade of transformation that will culminate in the university's bicentennial in 2021, not too long after you yourselves have joined the ranks of GW alumni. Congratulations, best of luck, and welcome to the George Washington University. You know, I often find myself pointing out that Washington, D.C. is a great capital not just of politics and power, but of the arts and intellect. And in that spirit, it's now my pleasure to introduce a musical interlude. Rashi Kulkarni is a senior from Ashburn, Virginia, majoring in economics with a minor in music. She's a presidential scholar in the arts. As a freshman, she won the GW Orchestra solo competition. This year happens to be the bicentenary of the birth of Polish composer Frédéric Chopin, and Rashi will be performing Chopin's Grande Polonaise Brillante. Last year, incidentally, an anonymous donation made it possible for GW to become an all-Steinway university, and Rashi will be performing on one of our brand new Steinway pianos, one that she had the opportunity actually to select. She actually participated in the purchase of this brand new Steinway piano. Ladies and gentlemen, Rashi Kulkarni.
Hunter Thomas is a sophomore in the School of Business. He's philanthropy chair of his fraternity, Sigma Chi, a member of Alpha Kappa Psi, the business honorary fraternity, and the executive vice president of the Undergraduate Business Association. But here's the really cool thing. Today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Hunter. Ladies and gentlemen, our student speaker, Hunter Thomas.
Thank you, Professor Castle. Just 1 year ago, I sat in the very last row of this auditorium with my brand new GW friends, wearing a Thurston t-shirt and filled with excitement as I started college. I remember being advised at this very convocation to get involved, take advantage of DC, and really meet and get to know my classmates and professors. Although this advice may sound like a bunch of cliches, these words turned out to be very important to me. Shortly after I returned to GW from spring break, I learned that my father had been admitted to the hospital in Long Beach, California, my hometown, with severe acute pancreatitis. I cannot begin to tell you how difficult this was for me. In the beginning, my family and I knew very little, but assumed a lot. Because my dad was a cancer survivor from years ago, we figured this could be his final battle. We learned that the disease was not cancerous, but nonetheless a major threat to his health. For weeks, I wasn't myself, unable to focus in class, and not willing to go out on the weekends. After a new complication developed in late April, he was moved to a university hospital in Orange County. I immediately returned home, preparing for the worst. This was just 2 weeks before finals, and I was not sure if I would return at all. Fortunately, my dad seemed to be improving and moving in the right direction, and I returned to school several days before finals. Because of my father's health, I turned down a summer internship at the Treasury Department to return to my lifeguard job in California and be home with my parents and brothers. Only 2 weeks into summer, my father's condition drastically worsened. Before an emergency surgery, the doctors told my family and me to say our final goodbyes. My dad told me to do well in school and achieve success honestly. Fortunately, my father pulled through the surgery and is now on the road to full recovery. He's also looking forward to visiting campus this spring. During what was surely one of the worst times in my life, when I thought my father would die, it was my GW family that pulled me through the experience. Although I was in California with my parents and brothers, I still counted on my friends from school to give me strength and encouragement to get through the ordeal. This health crisis has taught me a lot. For one thing, I finally understand the advice I got at my freshman convocation about getting involved and getting to know my classmates and professors. When I came back to campus just before finals last spring, the relationships I've made with my professors and fellow students saved my academic life. Among many other examples, my university writing professor extended his office hours in order for me to make last-minute changes to my final paper. And one of my geology classmates took pictures of the rocks and fossils for me to study, since I didn't make it to the review. I also learned that getting involved is a way to make lasting friendships and meet people who will be there for you in times of need. And I learned that taking advantage of DC means more than interning on the Hill or viewing the monuments at night. It means feeling comfortable in this area, connected, and a part of something greater than oneself. In short, for me, building relationships, getting involved, and connecting with DC meant that this city and this campus had become my second home. And my professors and classmates had become my GW family. Of course, I hope none of you will have to go through a family emergency like I did. And I hope that you enjoy your GW family through an exciting freshman year and a very fulfilling journey as a colonial. But know that if you need them, your GW family will be here for you. This GW family is what I cherish and what I hope you will find here. Had I gone to any other school in the world, I probably wouldn't have gone back this fall. But because I go to GW, I had something to return to, a family. I wish you all the best in forming your own GW family. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to introduce the Provost of the University, Dr. Steven Lerman.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. And welcome to all our students, of course, faculty, our deans, and our guests. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this community. In choosing to come to George Washington University, you now join a cohort of incredibly outstanding students. As President Knapp has said, the best cohort of students, at least based on academic qualifications, we have yet admitted at this university. Your class of 2014 is the most talented among the classes we've admitted to GW, and I want to congratulate each and every one of you for the hard work that has brought you here today. But the truth is, that hard work is really just the beginning. And as I thought over what I wanted to say to you in this brief talk, I realized that similar convocations are happening all around the country, in fact, all over the world around this time of the year. People like me are welcoming students much like you to their respective universities. And it's really tempting to give you lots of advice. But I'm not going to do that. Several of the people before me have already given you some advice. The odds are tomorrow morning you may remember a bit of it. All I can do is ask you to reflect upon some of it at some point in your academic career. And frankly, we'll have lots of time to give you advice later over your four-year academic career. So instead, I wanted to give you at least some of the big picture about why I believe undergraduate education matters so much. And I want to tell you what I think makes an undergraduate education here at GW so special. So what's the whole point of an undergraduate education? I mean, certainly it is to learn more about the world we live in, to test and explore your interests, and develop certain essential life skills such as critical thinking and problem solving. More broadly speaking, your education here is going to prepare you to be contributing members of our society. We, the citizens of the 21st century, live in a complex, technologically driven world. As adults in this modern world, you will be called upon to meet many challenges. Some of them will be the timeless challenges humanity has always faced, such as curing disease, alleviating poverty, or empowering women globally. The last being the theme of this year's first chapter reading, Half the Sky. Some of the challenges you will be asked to solve and face are unique to our times. Managing global climate change, for example, or finding ways to deal with massive man-created phenomena such as oil spills, or better yet, developing sustainable sources of energy that don't result in oil spills at all. Your undergraduate studies will lay the foundation for you to become adults who will meet these challenges head-on and come up with fresh ideas that my generation, your professors, may not yet have had. This is a learning process that takes place over 4 years and draws upon all of your experiences here at GW. From your courses in the sciences and mathematics, you'll come to understand the physical and biological universe. From your courses in the arts, humanities, and social sciences, you'll get an understanding of the human, ethical, and social dimensions of these challenges I talked about. Those of you who are focused on areas such as business or engineering will receive an education that prepares you for those chosen career paths. The knowledge you will acquire through your studies over the next 4 years will set forth the foundation for your further lifelong education and give you that essential toolkit that will develop new ways of thinking and thinking deeply about some of the challenges and many of the others I didn't mention. Now, what makes GW so special? I'm in an interesting position to answer that question because, like you, I'm very much a newcomer to this university and this great city in which our university exists. I spent most of my professional life at a different university, first as a professor of civil and environmental engineering, and later as part of their senior administration. Since I have come to GW, I have been truly amazed by the dynamic atmosphere on this campus and by the spirit of engagement with the larger world that infuses absolutely everything we do. GW's tradition of public service is of course natural, given our location in our nation's capital. You will find that many of your classes are enriched both by our location and by our university's commitment to public service and your engagement with that commitment. As undergraduates here, you have access to many special experiences your peers at other universities simply will not have, and those occur both inside and outside the classroom. Let me just name a few. The first is to take classes at the great museums of our country, to intern on Capitol Hill, or to learn about the global economy from professors who have direct ties to organizations such as the World Bank or the IMF. You have opportunities to engage in basic research as an undergraduate, aided by the proximity of George Washington to major research centers, such as the National Institutes of Health or the Naval Research Lab. You have the opportunities to study abroad and to learn how to work effectively in these different cultures, aided by an incredible set of ties between faculty here at George Washington University and colleagues, governmental agencies, and non-government organizations throughout the world. Many of the most important problems of our time transcend national borders and will require those skills of working across many nations, with many cultures, with many languages, with many traditions. You need to acquire those skills to be of any use in affecting those global challenges that I talked about earlier. That's just a short sample of what you will experience here at GW. Our goal as your faculty is to help all of you develop in yourselves those skills as problem solvers and leaders, and combine those with your own unique creative approach to living and learning. Along this 4-year journey as an undergraduate, you will gain knowledge and skills that will enhance your appreciation of the resources that are here in the Washington, D.C. area. I should also say, however, that it's important that you build those skills and that learning on the bedrock of your own ethical and moral compasses. Knowledge without that is not a force for good, it's simply knowledge. Goethe, the great philosopher, once said something to the effect, although he said it in German, of course, said something to the effect that it is the goal of an education to build two things: roots and wings. The roots are largely what you come here with. Those are your ethical standards, your beliefs, which you should always challenge, but much more in a personal way. We, the faculty, are here to help with your wings, and most of the burden there also rests on you. So I urge you to continue to develop both your roots and your wings as you go through your education here, and in fact, beyond that, throughout your whole lifetime. Of course, there's a whole other element of being an undergraduate here at George Washington University, and that's becoming part of a community of your fellow students and scholars. You have the opportunity to participate in a range of co-curricular activities that are part of the fabric. We call them co-curricular because they are part of your entire learning experience. These are the experiences that will help continue to shape your character, build your skills as leaders, and enable you to learn more about people from different places with different cultures and different beliefs. A few short months ago, you are graduating high school seniors, and today you are officially becoming freshmen at one of the world's great universities. In doing so, you join a tradition that dates back at least 1,000 years with the founding of the modern universities. It's a tradition designed to spark your excitement in the world of ideas, or as many like to say, in the life of the mind. I hope this excitement will truly spark in you the enthusiasm for a lifetime of learning. Your undergraduate years at GW are crucial, and yet they are just one step along an experience that truly will enrich your life. Thank you very much, and welcome to GW. Now, it is my honor to introduce the deans who join us today. Peg Barrett, Dean of Columbian College of Arts and Sciences, please come forward. So it's my pleasure to invite the freshmen in the Columbian College of Arts and Sciences, the oldest school in our university, to please rise and remain standing.
That's my line, but that's okay, I'll pick it
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry, I just did the line. I screwed.
In 1821, Columbian College was all there was. And with a direct line from then to today, it is my great pleasure to welcome these Columbian College of Arts and Sciences freshmen. Let's hear and stay rising.
Martha Pardavi Horvath, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the School of Engineering and Applied Science, please come forward.
I have the honor to invite the freshmen in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, a school with great research facilities and one of the highest ratio of undergraduate female engineering students in the nation. Please rise and remain standing.
Joseph Room, Associate Dean for Administration and Finance of the School of Public Health and Health Sciences, please come forward.
Provost Lerman, first, Mr. Thomas, thank you for reminding us about family, and I'd first like to welcome my nephew, a resident of Thurston Hall and a student in the Columbian College, Cameron Neely. But then it is my great honor to invite a small cohort of people who know that if you want to change the world, there is no better place or time than right here, in this place, and right now, at this moment. Would the class of 2014 of the School of Public Health and Health Services please rise and remain standing.
Doug Guthrie, our newest Dean of the School of Business, please come forward.
Thank you. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome the freshman class of the George Washington University School of Business. In the reordering and restructuring of today's global economy, that restructuring is happening through a partnership between business and many of the institutions of power that surround this university campus. And we invite you and are excited to go on the journey of exploring this partnership together. I invite you now to rise and remain standing.
Mike Brown, Dean of the Elliott School of International Affairs, please come forward.
It's my privilege to welcome you to GW's Elliott School of International Affairs, the largest school of international affairs in the country, the coolest school of international affairs in the world, and the only school of international affairs in the universe to be located in between the White House, the State Department, and the World Bank. It's my pleasure to welcome you to GW, and may I invite you to please stand and be recognized.
It's also my privilege to introduce another dean here who will have undergraduate students in her school. It's our newest school, the School of Nursing. Dean Jean Johnson joins us today, and in future such gatherings, we will begin to have classes of the School of Nursing. Welcome, Jean. President Knapp, it's my great honor and delight to present to you the class of 2014.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. You are invited to join us now on a barbecue at the University Yard. We will food, yes, free food, friends. We will conclude our convocation with an academic recession and a song you're familiar with. Please wait for the academic procession to leave the hall. Thank you all for being here.